What's up, listeners? Welcome back to Predator vs. Movies. I'm Alex.
I'm Peter.
I am Aiden.
Wow, he's a robot.
Bro, this is your best robot impression? Come on, you can do better.
Remember, you can't spell...
Peter knows he's gonna get roasted this episode.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Okay, the listeners are coming in cold and we are coming in so hot right now.
I know, right?
Remember, you can't spell Aiden without AI either.
That is actually in a row, right?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes! Yes!
This is a podcast where we discuss and review the latest movie releases and sometimes bully each other. We'll start off with a non-spoiler review before diving into a deep discussion of the film. Then we're going to ask the most important question: would this movie be better if the alien from Predator was in it? The answer may surprise you. This week we're going to be reviewing The Creator. This is the latest sci-fi action epic, maybe, I don't know, by one Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One. But before we do that, we have some news. First of all, very exciting, the writer's strike has ended, and in favorable terms. The WGA got a deal that they liked. Some brief points that I can recall off the top of my head include protections against AI, minimum number of writers for writers' rooms, residuals for streaming services. So they're going to tell
that's great.
The writers which shows are doing well, and then they will get bonuses for that.
Streamers also have to reveal streaming numbers to the union now, which is very good. That was clouded before. No one knew. It was all mystery.
Yeah, and I think also just pay increases as well, which is something so obvious, but apparently even that was hard to negotiate. I did hear that one of the last sticking points that made it drag out so long was the AI, actually. So it's funny that that's also what this movie's it's not about that, but it's very ironic that we have a movie where they're trying to be like, maybe AI are people too, and then in the meantime it's like, no, they're not in the real world. It's very awesome that everything seemed to go well for them. So now it's just the actors' strike that will continue on, but I think they're gonna meet at the table soon.
Oh, yeah.
Other news.
Good to hear.
Yep. Good to hear. Yeah. Other news. This is a very important news. Chicken Run 2, Dawn of the Nugget. The official title has been described. There's a location, a setting in this film. They've left the farm and they find themselves on one chicken island, which has been described as Wakanda for chickens.
That is funny, and also if you just think about that statement even a little bit, it's like maybe don't say that.
Actually, it's Wakanda for chickens.
Maybe don't say that one. Because what is real Wakanda? Who is that for? What is and what's the comparison?
Do chickens need a Wakanda? Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack.
And that is not this podcast. Yeah. Trailer Park, what's up?
Vroom, vroom, into the trailer park.
There were some trailers. Peter, I have a bet for you. I don't think you've watched a single one of these trailers. Am I correct?
Well, you gotta list them first.
They are The Curse, Argyle, and May December.
I've seen Argyle.
Okay, that was the one I was like, maybe he's seen that one.
$5.
Let's talk. I didn't bet any money.
I'll send you my e-transfer.
Okay, I probably know it. It's your email. Let's talk about Argyle then. So this is the latest film from Matthew Vaughn, I believe. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn's long lost relative.
Also.
And so, yes, the guy who the twisted mind.
That was so funny. Kingsman? What are you talking?
Yeah, Kingsman.
Although he is responsible for the Hitler MCU moment at the end of The Kingsman. For people who don't know, I have not seen this movie, but at the end of the movie, The Kingsman, there's a post-credit scene where Hitler is revealed to be the next villain, as if he's Thanos stepping out, being fine, I'll do it myself.
And he steps out of the shadows, it's the way it's filmed, Taylor. So yeah, I mean that only a twisted mind could come up with something so insane. Elton John is in the I don't even need to get into it. Anyways, Argyle. is a movie about, I think it's based, it's an adaptation of a book, I believe. And the plot is that a person is writing a spy thriller, and then it turns out, this is very heavy spoiler, so if you don't want to know anything about Argyle, don't listen.
Don't watch the trailer.
Don't watch the trailer, because it
That
tells
was
you.
a lot of it, yeah.
But, so yeah, basically, like, reveals the whole thing.
Yeah.
Spoils the entire conceit, but someone is writing. So first, it seems like it's just a spy thriller, like a very heightened spy thriller, and then it turns out someone's writing this book where those events are happening, and then it turns out she could predict the future. It seems, and just knows what will happen, and so real spies who are actually Argyle, like who are the people in her story, are like wanting to know what comes next, and so they're gonna make her write the book or something. I don't know.
That's a fun concept.
Yeah, it looks like it's from the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn. I'll give him that.
As much as I think Kingsman 2 sucks, I think that's a very bad movie. I think Kingsman 1 is fun, and I think the action style is fun. I think it can get a little tired sometimes, but I do think it is cool. It's cool to see, and it's different than other people. You see it and you know who it is, so that is something to. Yeah.
It's very accentuated with like moments of like when they jump off the building and the cat goes like wah, like gets bounced off, I guess, really high. That's totally him.
They're also doing something with the shutter angle and the frame rate that makes it look very specific. I think they're speeding. I think they're speeding it up a little bit, but in a way that other people don't. Like, it just looks. There's a specific way the motion happens. Yeah.
I could see that, but we actually have an in-house Matthew Vaughn appreciator. Peter, what did you think about Argyle, the trailer?
Why am I an appreciator?
You love Kingsman.
The first one.
Did you not dress up as Kingsman?
I did. Halloween. Yes.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
We're getting some podcast lore here.
Personal lore. So are you saying you're not a Matthew Vaughn stan?
I really liked the first Kingsman. I thought it was a brilliant movie. Like, it's some of the best action scenes I've ever seen in some in movie. But to be honest, for this one, I'm quite confused after I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, so how much of this is gonna be like book stuff? How much is this gonna be real stuff? You know? And like, I don't see themselves because like Henry Cavill is listed as like a main cast member, so I assume he's gonna play like Argyle in the real world as well. But like, it seems like the trailer seems very, it's like very focused on. Sorry, what's her name? Bryce Dallas.
Howard.
Focus on her character, right? So like, I'm very confused of what the movie is supposed to be.
And was that Sam Rockwell too?
Sam Rockwell as a partner. Yeah.
I like Sam Rockwell.
Like, this cast is stacked. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like a lot of people they casted in this movie.
And Dua Lipa as well.
You mean Dua Peep? I guess don't know. Well, it's like basically a talk show host mispronounced like Dua Lipa's name and called her Dua Peep, and then the internet went crazy. But anyways, whatever. Yeah.
I'm sure they did. But I think most of the movie is going to be Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell.
Okay, gotcha.
But at least the way the trailer cuts together, it seems like maybe they'll intercut and occasionally they'll progress the Henry Cavill story in such a way that it seems like they're gonna meet, and then the trailer even makes it appear that like it might not be Henry Cavill. It seems like there's a reveal and they go, oh my god, like it seems like it's gonna be some nerd, like I don't know. It was you all along. It's a mirror. This is the real Argyle. Ba, ba, ba. Mirror.
That would be a student film reveal.
But look, the movie we watched for this podcast has some student film reveals. So I would not discount these theories. I'll say the beginning, the heightened book reality. Very interesting to me.
That does look fun.
I would watch a movie that was Henry Cavill with that haircut.
I know, it's a crazy haircut, eh?
Grabbing women off of moving motorcycles. That was really funny.
Wait, that was John Cena, right?
It was John Cena.
Yeah.
Cena. I do want to say really quickly, for those who know, Henry Cavill looks like James from Twin Peaks.
Mm.
That's what I gotta
He
say.
just has like a really like tall haircut and a long forehead. I don't know. It's like a weird combination where it makes his head look really tall.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think this is it looks like a cartoon.
It does.
I don't know which one I'm thinking of.
Might be the vibe. Might be what it's going
Yeah.
for. Oh, is it Johnny Bravo you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's what it is. We watched some other trailers, and someone is saying something in the chat is really distracting me. Great little meme from Peter. Thank you. And this is now recorded. We watched other trailers. There's a smaller trailer I'll throw in here for The Curse. More of a teaser, potentially. But
I'm sold.
I was sold from the beginning. But like this is like
fire.
only, you know.
Oh yeah, that trailer I've seen as well. That's Emma Stone and Nathan Fillion, right?
Yeah.
No, not Nathan.
Fielder.
Nathan Fielder. Nathan Fielder. Yeah.
Close. Yeah. So this is the one where it's like the HGTV couple are trying to gentrify a neighborhood or something, and there's a curse. But the trailer is literally just a zoom pullout, which, I mean, I love those. So
but even already, it's already just like an interesting filmmaking decision. Like to start close, a different angle from people who are clearly talking to a camera, and so we're getting a different view of something than we normally do. It's like already like it's passing a filmmaker litmus test for me. Not that it's the craziest thing ever, but it looks good from this.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember what they were saying, but they're just like the line they're saying is also pretty funny.
Yeah. It's like, do you know the sun can stop a fire? The sun can put out a fire.
Yes. Yeah. And he's like, really? And it's like the way they're delivering their lines is very like this reality TV kind of persona of like putting on this like these airs of, oh, interesting, wow, you know. So I'm quite excited for that. Last trailer we have is Todd Haynes' May December. Todd Haynes did movies such as Carol, a movie called Safe. He likes working with Julianne Moore, who he did Safe with, and she is in this movie as well. And it follows an actor played by Natalie Portman, an actor playing an actor, crazy. And she is trying to learn the role of. I had no idea what the role she was learning until I watched the trailer, and I was like, oh no. And so she's learning the role of a former teacher who, I guess, what's the word?
Had
an affair, but like groomed a 7th grader, and is still together with this now like 30-year-old man. But what the fuck? That's like
crazy.
That's crazy. But like the movie, in the world of the movie, that's fucked up. But as a movie concept, very interesting, and I can't wait to see what that
looks
like.
very interesting, and it looks like it's handling it with like sophistication. I mean, as much as you can tell from the trailer, but I actually am very interested just from watching the trailer in this.
Yeah, and it seems to be a bit of like she's gonna. It's it's Black Swan. It's like what is like delving into the mind of someone you think is a terrible person who did a terrible thing. Like, what does that do to you, like the transformation of it?
Also, why, like the angle of like art, and like why do we need to, like, what is the point of doing this? What is the point of showing this in art? Which is interesting.
And then also like how her interloping is affecting the real people. Like it's making the woman feel like guilt about this, Julianne Moore's character, and her husband is like freaking out. He's like, was I groomed? Like that's like a really scary proposition to like realize, to have that like switch turned on. So that seems like a very interesting movie. But we watched a movie today that we'll talk about it. Aiden, do you want to tell us about what movie we saw?
Oh, you caught me slipping. Yeah, I will tell you about the movie that we saw. I'll tell you so much about it, you'll be like, holy fuck, that's a lot. Yeah, so it was directed by Gareth Edwards, screenplay by Gareth Edwards and Chris Weitz. It is starring John David Washington, Gemma Chan, who loves playing robots. Can't stop playing robots. She's played many a robot in her time. And Ken Watanabe, Sturgill Simpson, and Allison Janney. Cinematography, Greg Fraser, shout out, and Oren Soffer. Oh, looks like they had a duo going on. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that was just a different unit or whatever. Probably not. Distributed by 20th Century Fox. Release date September 26, 2023. Wide release September 29th, though. I said December. I meant September. Running time 133 minutes. Budget $80 million. Current box office is $32.3 million. That's not incredible.
No, and fair enough. Like, we'll
It
talk about it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, marketing-wise, like, I just don't know how much.
Yeah, I feel like not a lot of people knew about it.
Yeah.
I had to describe what I was going to see, and people were like, "Oh, it sounds interesting."
Yeah.
I don't think I knew Greg Fraser was on this. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
But having seen it, makes sense. That checks out. So now that we've talked about what this movie is, we are going to do a little game. It's this game called Predacritic. There's a website called Metacritic. See the connection here. And we are going to guess where the creator...
Astute listeners will see what we did there.
Might pick up on what I'm getting at here. We're going to guess how the creator scores on Metacritic. I almost messed this up. I have to have a confession. I did accidentally see what it was a few days ago. So I will be withdrawing from the race here. Before I spin the wheel.
I forget what our protocol is. Does that mean you're summarizing it?
Yes.
You liked to say that.
Yes, I agree.
I'll take it.
I do think it's fair. I
Just
think
for
that is an
once.
L you have to hold, unfortunately.
It was an accident. Okay, fine. Aiden, you get to go first, though.
Oh wow, I'm first. Fuck. Well, I guess there's not much of a risk here. Okay, I can just guess what I want to guess.
No.
Okay.
Well, that's why it's not fun if I have to do it.
There is a risk of winning.
No, we can
Aiden.
still win. We still can win. I want to go first.
Winning.
Okay.
Risk of winning.
I think this is in the 50s. That's where I'm gonna go off the dome. I'm gonna go 55.
Okay, and Peter?
I think that's too low. I'm gonna give it 68.
That's way too high. I'm just gonna tell you right now. There's no way.
Okay, wait. Now I have to do math. It's in the middle. I'll tell you that much.
It's in the middle. Oh,
so you
shit.
said 55
What?
and 68.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Peter's closer for sure.
Fuck.
What is the actual score?
A 63, which is, I think.
How did it take you that long to figure out I'm closer?
Because it's like math.
Oh, come on.
I had to think about it like a little bit. It's 5 versus 8 away. So like, there's a clear winner, but it's close enough where I'm like it's not obvious.
Shake
Usually
my
you
head,
play
bro.
the game and I don't have to guess, or I don't have to do the math. Anyways, now somebody gets to go first. Peter.
It is Peter.
And what do you think about this score of 60?
Okay. So, not gonna lie, I like this less than I thought I was gonna like this. Because, like, from the trailer, I was just like, okay, visually, this looks stunning. It's a very original vision, at least when it comes to the visual of the movie. And I really like I think one thing that I really liked about Rogue One is it had a lot of very unique ship designs. And, like, just, like, the visual of the movie is very stunning. Like, you know, like having like a shield portal that lets you go through the planet Scarif, etc. It's all very unique and very pretty when it comes to the visual. And I think he absolutely succeeded, Gareth Edwards, in terms of visual department. And the fact that all this was filmed on a Sony camera.
FX3.
Yeah, like, it's very, very impressive. But I think this movie just, like to me at least, the first half feels very, very scattered, and also it tried to do a lot of things all at the same time, but it didn't excel in any of them. And when it comes to emotional catharsis, like, I was expecting like a really strong emotional catharsis at the end, and actually like from the movie doing something unique with the theme and the topic. But unfortunately, it's a very mundane and cliche emotional catharsis at the end. I still like almost teared up because, you know, the music was hitting, the scene was just right. But unfortunately, it doesn't feel very earned. It feels like very much like the movie is time for you to cry now, time to cry, instead of like, you know, like you genuinely feel for the character and you feel in the moment transported and you're with the character. So, like, to me, I still really enjoy the movie. I originally gave it a 4 out of 5. I think I'll probably lower it to a 3.5 or a 3. But visually, it's spectacular. Like, if anything, like, support the visual. And, like, the theme it conveys is very, very interesting. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a good job of exploring it fully. It's not as thought-provoking as, like, a Blade Runner, if you're comparing it with Blade Runner. But I would still recommend you to go see it.
That's a very astute review that from our pre-pod discussion I was not expecting. I thought you were just gonna be like, "Oh, this movie was great."
No, I was going into it expecting like a lot of dilemmas and conversations surrounding the AI topic, but it like barely scratched the surface. It's very disappointing in that regard. Yeah.
This is all very true facts. But before I get into it, we're gonna hear from Aiden. What did you think about this movie?
I think this movie is dumb.
Yeah.
I think this movie is ill-conceived. I think that there is not a single idea in this movie that comes to fruition in any sort of way that is, like, even a little interesting. I actually think that it's not one of the worst scripts I've seen this year in terms of, like, on some levels, I think it does just function as a story. Like, you could just watch this and it's like, that's a story, okay. But in terms of, like, scripts that are trying to say something, this is, I think, as close to a failure as you can get, actually. I think that, like, if you're trying to, like, make a point and really explore themes, this is an utter failure of a script. I think that while the visuals are very pretty, I like the color, I like the aesthetic, I agree, the design is cool, I like that the world feels very real, I like that we can see a lot. I don't think the visual direction is actually very strong. I think that, like, in terms of shot choice, it's not that crazy. I think that the characters are not fun to watch. I think that the themes are underdeveloped. I think that this is not good. I would give this, I think this movie is very pretty, and that's the only thing getting it up to a 2.5 for me. And it would otherwise be lower than that out of 5. And so I am going to not recommend this for people.
This is you're gonna get a double dose of that take. I'm basically a simulant, I suppose. Movie. So this movie sucks. It sucks so bad. At some point, I was excited for it. There was definitely, like, the first trailer dropped, and we were like, "Oh, that looks cool." But then over time, I was just, I'd see bits and pieces, and I was like, it's the same single dude with a kid, and, like, the navigating that relationship. That's just, like, that's Hollywood's bread and butter right now, and so I'm really getting sick of it, especially when they do not bring any new ideas to the table. Now, they could have, you can't really tell from the trailer, but I had a sinking feeling, and that was proven right, ultimately. This movie, the relationship between the John David Washington's character Josh and Alpha is, like, so incredibly forced. I was like seeing it happen in real time, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Also,
like,
switches
immediately, like, it's so crazy. It's trying to say, like, what Aiden said about a message, a theme. It's clearly trying to say one thing, and yet so, like, doing the opposite. It is not practicing what it is preaching. Just in terms of, like what it is, it's words versus actions. How the camera is used is saying a very different message from what it's trying to sell you on. In terms of messaging, I think this movie just, like, does not actually spend any time trying to convince you of anything anyways. I think it's a lot of, they've clearly got, like, this plot they want to do. This is a plot sell movie in the worst sense of plots. I know you don't like that term, but, like,
but it's a bad plot. Like, it's a bad unmotivated plot. It's not the fact that it's plot that it's bad, is what I mean.
Yeah. When I say plot sell, usually what I mean is, like, and then this happens and then this happens. It doesn't mean, like, plot,
Sure.
Plot is important. But when I say plot sell, it's someone who focuses plot as king, is the most important thing. And that's what this movie feels like.
I'm one of those people, but I just think this is a bad plot.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, so it's rushing between where it starts and where it wants to go, where it wants to end up, and it does not have fun on the way, or, like, involve characters and, like, investigate them in any meaningful way. just tries to create a world, and it does an okay job of doing that. And the world, like everyone else has said, great production design. I like the robots, what they look like, but they treat the robots like shit, and that's kind of like the point I'm getting at. The directing is bad. The acting is pretty bad, and I think that's a fault of the directing. The second act is painfully slow. I was really fighting sleep, and I was not tired. I was just like, this is the most boring thing I've seen.
Also makes for a weak transition to Act 3, just because of how Act 2 goes,
And it's quite funny, like, when Act 3 starts, I was like, oh, things are happening again.
Yeah, it's like,
I sat up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're doing stuff now, great.
Yeah.
And it's Twist City, let me tell you. They try to be like, oh, it's a twist. And, like, I didn't guess all of it 100% right, but, like, you could see those things.
There's one where it's like, yeah, fucking, of course. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just a bad movie. I'm kind of wavering between 2.5. I might give this a 2 stars.
2 stars?
I can't stress this enough.
I am very close to that.
This movie's bad. But before we discuss it any further, we have a spoiler warning.
Pew, 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 wee woo, wee woo. That's spoiler time. We're in the spoiler zone.
Let me tell you, lots I could sort of spoil. But, like, again, you could guess. Anyways, so now that I've lost that game because I accidentally saw the score, now I have to summarize.
Yeah, so it starts out and he has a kid that dies, and then later in the movie there's this kid he's with.
What? Okay, it's my turn now. Anyways, I have 2 minutes to summarize the over 2 hour movie where a million things happen. So, yay me. And here we go. So basically AI is invented, and then AI blows up LA. And then John David Washington is a soldier, and he's married to Gemma Chan, and they're gonna have a kid, and then she fucking dies. She's also blown up. He has prosthetic limbs. Doesn't matter though. And then he's 5 years later, he is doing a job, and then they're like, we need you a soldier again. You've retired, but no, you can't. We're gonna go to Vietnam or something, and you're gonna go find the creator and this massive important weapon he's created. Turns out, after they bully a bunch of Asian people, kill some, turns out that the weapon is a child. And they're looking for the creator the whole time. They're like, where's the creator? And they're just walking around doing stuff. He finds his old friend, and his robot girlfriend dies, and he's really sad about it. And then he dies. I'm not sure any of this is important. Turns out the little kid, Alpha, can turn things off. She can turn things on and off. Yep. That's her power, like EMP kind of thing. And she has feelings, turns out, also crazy. And John David Washington obviously bonds with the child. And then they eventually find this like hideout where the people are. I think they get kidnapped at some point because he goes back to his home, Skyfall, and is kidnapped. And then the U.S. Army finds them, and they have some suicide bomber robots. Yeesh. And they kill everybody there, and then they go to heaven, which is this like temple place further up the river, and they find General Kurtz there, and they find the creator there, and it turns out the creator is actually his wife, who we thought was alive the whole time, but actually she's in a coma and basically dead. Might as well be dead, I guess. And then they kill her. They pull the plug, and then the creator, they 9/11, and they go up to the spaceship, the Nomad, and they blow it up. And I think I missed some things, but that's more or less what happens. I'm out of time.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So there's also this function in the movie where when people are like just about to die, you can like download their memory. You can like download the memory, like their consciousness, and then put it in a robot. And so before leaving Gemma Chan's comatose body, John David Washington grabs this USB, and then as he dies on the crashing Nomad at the end, he is reunited with Gemma Chan in the form of a robot.
Yep.
And discussion starts now. Wow.
Bad.
What a movie.
If you're asking me my favorite parts, I'll get it. Like, I think that it's gotta be, like, there are little details that could be realized into something good and are not. So I don't know if that's my favorite part, but it's just like thing I noticed where I'm like, okay, that's gonna be something later, and then it didn't matter. It's like you said, the prosthetic limb. that should be very important. And it's not that you need to comment upon it super hard. Like you don't need to hit me over the hammer with it, or over the head with a hammer.
But like address it.
It also
like a little bit.
It also has to just mean something. Like the point this movie is trying to make is that like robot and human are the same, and we should be nice to each other. It's also simultaneously trying to make the point where evolution is natural and maybe this is just the next life form. Those are contradictory points. You cannot say that those things are the same thing. So my whole, this is not favorite part, but I'm already here. This like my whole thing about this movie is that it is trying to, the robots and the humans are functionally the same, which makes this movie not interesting at all. It's positing the question, is AI like human? Are they human? And the answer is like, yeah, in this movie, obviously they are. Like, yep. Obviously. Because for one thing, according to the rules of this movie, the human is encapsulated by consciousness, right? That's like, otherwise the memory thing doesn't work. Because if the filmmaker didn't believe that, then as soon as you put the memory into a different body, it would be different. And it would be a somewhat different person, and you'd explore that. Because we don't, we have to infer that this movie is saying the human exists in the memory. So AI have memory and they exist and they compute, so they are human. Also, their bodies are the same as ours in this movie. Like, it does not matter. There's a scene in the, like, they say later in the movie that, oh, they invented us to make us do their menial labor. And it's like, I saw a clip of a robot running in a track and field event at the beginning of this movie. You cannot lie to me. And he wasn't winning by very much. He was like a meter ahead of just some dude. So don't, like, you can't like, how is it evolution if robots are literally the same as humans? How are they selected? How are they being naturally selected? They're not. So like, and if so, you wind up with just this like lukewarm statement of like, yeah, people that are like people are people, and it's like for sure, man. But that doesn't mean anything. This is a way more interesting movie if it explores that AI are a life form, but they're different. And how are they different? And how would this affect? And what does that mean to humans? How does that change our place in the world? This movie is also, it's related, one more thing. This movie is also suggesting that humans are the peak, the end goal of evolution. Doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. And that is also contradictory to any point about like the potential of AI life form. That's my spiel for now. I could say more, but yeah.
Yeah. I'll say like, what you're getting at is also why Blade Runner does work.
Yes.
Is the replicants have flaws that make them different from humans. Flaws and other things as well. So like they don't live very long.
Yeah.
They are designed to die after a certain amount of period. They're designed in certain ways so they have like fail safes so that if they do rise up, they'll just die anyways. And like other things, like that's what makes them an underclass in that universe. Whereas in this one, there is like basically no difference, especially when you have, it's so crazy. There's like the ones that look like robots, and then there's the ones that look like humans. And it's like, why? That's the problem I'm having is like, if they didn't look like humans, that's a thing. To be like, we can't coexist. You look different. I know you're a robot.
Yeah.
Also,
and that's very interesting. That's an interesting idea. That
if the revelation also was that not that there was a kid, like that's the thing, is we've designed the first robot that looks like a human and can pass the test. That's a movie.
That is a movie. Yes.
That has already happened in this universe. That's gone. Yeah. We're well past robots that look and act and are exactly the same as humans. So it's like, why? What are we trying to,
you see the kid, and that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that she's a kid. Like,
there's no implications. And also, like, again, a Blade Runner thing they're stealing from is like the idea that there was a replicant. Oh no, this Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
The idea
which
that
also a very good movie that develops the ideas even further and talks about memory in a really interesting way as well.
Yes, and in that movie, the idea is like the crazy revelation is that two replicants have, or at least one replicant has had a child. That's a thing. This is not a conceived child. This is, again, a manufactured robot. like making a smaller model of robot is not
something...
the revelation you think it is.
They did something that we would just assume that they could have always done. Like, it's
I'm
not...
shocked that it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
That's not crazy.
Because even
the
that
EMP thing is different, but
even the idea that like the robots like felt a need to make kids for themselves because they want to be more human, like that's an interesting idea too. And that's like an interesting side detail, is that like in Act 2, as they're going along their journey, they meet robot kids, and he's like, why did you make robot kids? They're just gonna be kids. And it's this idea of like, well, they can't grow up because they're not organic and they can't grow. And so
did they say that?
I don't know. I don't
think they did, because
I'm saying better movie. That's like an interesting idea to layer in, but yeah.
Also crazy that the robot kid not created by a robot, created by a human. like you think it's like, again, the idea that they're trying to create their own society and we are just being mean to them. That's not the case. We are still acting as like a god force on the robots. They are not self-sufficient yet. They are reliant on humans creating them. It's Peter, you had something to say.
Yeah, so I totally understand why you guys think this movie steals from a bunch of movies. And my biggest problem is it's okay if you steal and borrow, but the fact that you're actively offering me an inferior version is not okay.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what you're doing nothing with it. Yeah.
Like for example, the bombing scenes of like the village by the water, that is like straight out of Avatar. You know what I mean? When I was watching it, I was like, that gives me Avatar vibes.
That's another movie I want to compare this to later, because it's similar in different ways.
Allison Janney is Sigourney Weaver's character in the first movie. I was like, oh, it's Sigourney Weaver.
Except without the same arc, but yeah.
And Jake Sully, person with disability,
who goes into the robot world, and but we'll get into that more. Yeah.
Like, my biggest problem of the movie is, like, you picked such an interesting topic, but yet you offer no valid, like, dialogue or conversation about this topic. Like, I'm actually fine with, like, I really enjoyed some of the side bits they talk about AI. Like, for example, they said, there was an attack on an orphanage ran by AI, but the kids are human. It's a human orphanage, but it's ran by AI. But when a kid died, the AI who's taking care of the kid decided to turn itself off, to like basically killing himself because like he can't take it anymore. Was it? I think it was a she actually. Like these were like really interesting pieces that didn't get explored on. Like basically the movie, like you guys said, is trying to show that AIs are human too. You know, like AIs can feel. AIs are not just machines. It's not just programming, it's beyond programming. But like the moment that showcased that and the central conflict is like not very, it's like somewhat related, but like it's not like it's not directly related to that theme. The central conflict became taking down a super weapon that can kill off AIs. Like I think like the emotional backbone is just not there. Like they want the emotional backbone to be the relationship between Josh and the kid. But like you guys said and discussed in the non-spoiler section, it feels very, very forced. And the kid just like developed feelings for Joshua.
Oh, yeah.
For like just like all of a sudden it's like, okay, I guess I'm your friend now. Oh, you know what? Actually, we are actually related because I have the face of your kid. You know? And like it just it feels very, very underdeveloped. And there were literally just moments where, like, especially at the end when the kid's about to leave on the skate pod, like, of course I feel sad, you know, our protagonist is like basically gonna die there, but
the protagonist,
the protagonist from Tenet, but like it doesn't feel earned at all. It's just like the kid is sad, the John David Washington's sad, so I guess I'll be sad too, you know. So that really sucks. And then lastly, like, it's very obvious that they're trying to use like really powerful imageries. Like for example, like at the very start, you see like robots being put through the grinder and the robot like reaching out. It's like, oh my god, I don't want to die. Like And like it's like okay, like it's obvious, like you know these imageries are gonna like shock people, are gonna trigger emotions, but like do something with it. Be beyond just like a like a basic like feeding us pictures that will trigger emotions. Like give us something that connect them together. Offer us a grander theme that can connect all of these together and offer valuable conversation, valuable food for thought. But then at the end, it feels very empty. It feels like a movie that's tried to be something, but then at the end, like underneath the husk, it's very empty. That's my biggest problem about the movie.
Snaps. Yeah. This is like this is a guy trying to do Blade Runner, but he only knows how to do Star Wars. so like the difference between those two movies is one is like, and I love both movies. Don't get me wrong. The original Star Wars, love it.
But original Star Wars knows what it is too.
Rogue One's great.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's the thing. Is like those are movies that know what they are. That's the thing. Yeah. So the issue is this movie doesn't know which it wants to be. So Blade Runner is a like noirish like interior look at what is human. It's asking those questions Aiden loves. It's like, what does it mean to be human? Can something that isn't technically human be equivalently human? Do androids dream of electric sheep? Yeah.
How are they the same? How are they different? Yeah.
Exactly. And like that's like a really interesting study. Like it's a question and it's trying to find the answer to this question. Star Wars is an action adventure movie, a swashbuckling narrative about rebels overcoming an empire they can't, like an all-powerful empire. It's your Vietnam movie in space. That's what it is. And those are completely different things. Yeah. You cannot, I don't think you can do both because they have, like, the goals are just completely different. One is saying, one is asking, are we the same? And the other one is saying, like, rise up. And, like, they're just not quite similar enough where you kind of have to pick one.
Well, yeah. And so, sorry to jump in, but, like, sure. Star Wars is like a morality play. Like, it's black and white, and it's just, like, it's just very clear. Like, it's about hope, and it's
feel good.
It's about sitting down and feeling good and good overcoming evil. But, like, I completely agree with you. This movie confuses it. I think this is a good jumping off point to talk about. One of the other big things this movie is trying to talk about is, like, American imperialism. Doing a bad job of that. So, similar to how Star Wars is about, like, Vietnam and the Empire is America, America is America in the creator, and it's like 9/11 / Pearl Harbor, whatever.
So much 9/11.
Yeah, it's like, and so, like, the idea, which is, like, obviously correct, which is that, like, the U.S. invaded the East and was very bad in the Eastern world post 9/11, post Pearl Harbor with the bombs and stuff. This movie is stupid, though, for a number of reasons. It does not, like, it is drawing a line of comparison between just, like, AI and Asian people. Like, that's, and it's not handling that very well.
But remember, you can't spell Asian without AI, which is something I said earlier. And I think that was the log line for this movie. It was like this is the movie we're doing, guys. Boy, let me tell you, it's bad. I wanted to do some research on this because I saw an article on my Twitter feed and I thought I'd give it a read and pull some stuff that I agreed with innately, but maybe didn't have the right words to express it. So there's an article, I did not pull where it was from, but it is by a writer named Siddhant Adlakha, and he talks about in that article the idea of techno-orientalism. So it's something that even Blade Runner definitely does this, and it's the idea that sci-fi movies have a large association with Asia, and this can mean all parts of Asia, so this also includes Dune, actually. Or he mentions Dune at least because that is on the other side. It's the Middle East side. Mm-hmm. And the problem with this is that it treats Asian people like as a broad term as others, and in these narratives they are never actualized characters who we are supposed to like root for or who have the level of interiority as other characters. They are the others. The main characters are usually white. This is an exception, but still
But
not
he's
Asian.
American, and
He's an American, non-Asian. Also, the article mentions Gemma Chan, the one character who actually has a character.
British.
She's British.
Yeah.
She's not from Asia. And it's what else do I have written here? So they only play the other. No interiority. We never actually like learning about these robots or the Asian people. Again, the line is so blurred because we do not see like American AI people. That is the only place where the robots and AIs live. It becomes intermingled. And another intermingling is just they've decided Asia is one culture. It's a pan-Asian melting pot culture where suddenly like we're in Thailand, then there's like Philippines, there's China,
influence.
Tibet, India, and they're just saying like it's all one thing. There's no like concept of this being separate. It's like, and they even make that a plot, like a thing. It's New Asia instead of being any individualized specific country or culture. It's just one, because that's how the movie decides to frame the people they're trying to create humanity for, and utterly failing. It's quite embarrassing. That's most of what I have to say about that. The other thing I guess is just that while like the robots stand in for Asian people, and while they're trying to say robots have feelings too, they're also just like brutally killing robots with no, like the way the camera treats robots is really important.
Especially the one with the dog and the grenade. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's played for laughs.
Yeah.
They're just like brutally murdering like cop robots and civilian robots, and it's like a joke, and there's no empathy for these beings, and that's the main problem with this movie. Is it's saying that it's verbal empathy but not actually committing to any sort of empathy underneath.
It's like, sorry, Peter, were you first or was I?
My point is slightly related only. So if your point's related,
okay.
then
Well, my point's quite. So they also, just to piggyback what you're saying, they're also agentless. Like, they can't do shit. They need humans to do anything. They're incapable. Like, and so if they really are, if they're stand-in for people, for Asian people or people living outside the Western world, or however broad you want to be, like, it's the same, like, it's the same savior narrative where, like, they need a Westerner to come in and do it. And so that's not very good. It's like really, and this is a point I want to get into, there's no reason why America shouldn't have just, like, won, too. Like, why, like, America should have won by now, considering, like, what we're seeing. But, sorry, Peter, that's a bit of a different point, so, Peter, you get into it.
Yeah, so, like, actually what I want to talk about is the U.S. side as well. Because the other thing I feel like they failed to explore is, like, the whole point that this war is built on a lie, you know, like, technically... It's the human who coded the AI that coded it wrong, so the AI detonated. So the AI detonated the nuke, and like that's so interesting, you know. Like that's another that can totally be the B plot or something, you know, to the movie. That's like literally something that the like, you know, even like the officer, like the officer lady character whose both son died in that war, like what would her reaction be when she found out that this whole war is built on a lie, you know? Like it's actually just us sending soldiers to kill AIs because we don't want to bear the responsibility of the one, because like it's us who detonated the nuke, not technically the AI's fault. Like I think that's such an interesting angle that they just didn't explore.
It's crazy how much of a 9/11 this movie is. Like, it's so. First of all, the nuke thing, that is 9/11. That's their 9/11. It's a terrorist attack on a U.S. city, and then
used as an excuse to
to launch an invasion against a specific area of Asia. They've changed the location, so I can't figure it out. What is this about? But like, come on. And it feels weird that, like, I don't know, okay, it's a good idea to be like, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And me being not me, we don't even live in the U.S., but, like, the idea that the America should not have done that. Yeah, I agree. Good on you for figuring that one out. But like, there's nothing new on that, and I don't know. It's also weird that while like that's happening, then later in the movie, the answer to the problem is hijack a plane and fly towards the U.S. owned thing that has two prongs pointing down. Like I was so like, funny.
Bro, no way. Okay,
there's
surely that's not related.
There's one frame that looks really bad taken out of context.
Yeah.
It's plane flying at two-pronged thing, and I was like, if you're making a 9/11 movie, how do you miss that?
Yeah.
If it's not intentional, how did you miss that? It's either one or the other. It's weird.
It's also like, to compare it to Star Wars again, like Star Wars is similar in that like obviously imperialism is bad, but Star Wars is not treating that question as if it's something that we need to slowly uncover throughout the movie.
Yes.
And as if they're like, we're coming to some revelation. It just from the beginning is like, these guys fucking suck. And like, and it's just going to be a story about like, we're going to kill him. That like, or we're not kill him, but we're going to defeat them in that movie. Like, and it's that simple. It knows it's that simple. This movie is pretending, masquerading to be an intelligent look at these ideas, and it is not.
Well, it's kind of an Avatar, but I think even Avatar, there's a little bit of like, you're starting at the beginning, and the characters are so, they're such big caricatures. I'm referring to the first one. They're such big caricatures, and it's like, yeah, we're getting the unobtainium, and we're combined with these enormous, like, you cannot take that seriously in the sense that like you can't look at that and be like, oh yeah, these are the good guys, you know? Like, it's so obviously overtly bad that it's not pretending, even though there's still like the character has to work this out in his own journey.
Yes. And I was thinking, I want to get into the Avatar comparison as well, because like you said, like Avatar is also like a superficial movie about imperialism and specifically colonization in that movie. One of the other reasons that movie is, I'm not a huge fan of Avatar 1, but one of the reasons that movie is certainly way better than this is just it's a better world developed too. It's a world that is conceived of better. It's a world with a history that makes sense. It's very specific as to what they are trying to do. The imperialists are going to extract resources from this planet. They will kill the indigenous people to do so. Makes perfect sense. In this movie, America is invading.
Makes perfect sense.
It makes like it just
from a story perspective, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In this movie, they're invading New Asia to kill robots. Why? Because again, like the real reason the U.S. did that was like oil and shit. Like they had nefarious ulterior motives for doing this. It wasn't like obviously, and the real crime is not like they sinisterly were like cackling and like, we're gonna go kill all these people. It was that the people didn't matter. The people were reduced to nothing because they wanted to get these resources they want to extract from this land. Like, and that's like, if you want to be intelligent, you have to do this. But why is America doing this? And then again, I keep saying this: how have they not won? Because Nomad is an undefeatable device. They should have done one strike with that, and they've won. Mm-hmm. There's no reason why they shouldn't have won yet.
And how is it allowed? Like, that's what I can ask you. It's like, how are you operating your enormous spaceship over like Pan-Asia or whatever they called it, New Asia,
who they're not at war with? But they are at war with the robots. Yeah.
And Pan-Asia just didn't make one of these, or like, where is the Asian government? Yeah. What are they doing? They're not, like, you're telling me that all of Asia, like, nothing has changed in this universe except 9/11 happened in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming Asia is more or less the same, and they have governments, and they're not just like the rebels in Star Wars, a ragtag group of assorted individuals. Like, they have space programs. What? It just makes no sense. Talking about aimlessness. This movie couldn't, like, from the beginning to the end, I was like, where is this going? What is the goal?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
What are we, like, spending our time on?
Why are we looking for the creator? Why does that matter to the Americans?
There's just no urgency to anything that is happening. They've got the weapon. This was the big concern. Also, not really sure why we're concerned about this kid. I mean, I guess the EMP thing, potentially dangerous to them.
Because he could take down Nomad, but why? Like, we've seen other things the U.S. has that the robots are unable to deal with.
Yes.
Like,
so they're going after this threat. They want the creator because they made the thing, but then I'm like, I think my issue with urgency is there's just no ticking clocks. There's no timeline we're working up against. They only bring it up in the third act when they're like, we are going to bomb all of the hideouts.
And why
That's
now?
our ticking clock. Why now? Yeah, right?
Yeah. Why
and
are
it's
they doing
like,
it now? Yeah.
we have to wait to find the creator. Why would
Why?
you not just... If you're telling me you know the locations of the rebel base, the thing that the Star Wars people were trying to prevent them from knowing. So you know where they are. That's not the issue. Yeah. We're looking for a person who I think, want to kill, and we couldn't just kill her by airstrike. Like, again, I don't want to give the U.S. military too many ideas here, but guys, what are you doing?
I think they only found out after they went to the lab, though, the location of the bases.
Maybe some of them, but like they
still
clearly knew.
Yeah.
Or like it wasn't clear enough. Clearly, like if we're both having a problem with this, like what are they waiting for? And then also, like what are we doing in Act 2? Yeah. We're just looking for someone, and it feels so aimless. Yeah. It doesn't feel like they're looking for someone. Is what I'm
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That is accurate.
And it's also like, I guess we're supposed to gather that for whatever reason, the U.S. is very afraid of this new weapon, and so they want to kill Gemma Chan, the creator, but out of fear that she's going to make more. That she, like...
Probably.
Like, I guess that's what we're supposed to gather. That's not... That needs to be developed more, because why would the U.S. be afraid of it? Like, why is the U.S. so afraid? They don't even know what the weapon is. They've heard rumors, but they have awesome power.
They have the Death Star.
They have the Death Star.
Agree.
So like, why would they feel threatened? So the whole movie we're looking for the creator. I understand why Josh is looking for her on a personal level. That makes perfect sense. That's his wife, and he wants to see her. Great. That's not great, but like it makes sense, and it's a reasonable thing. But why is it also needs to be true that the U.S. is urgently looking for her. It also needs to be true that maybe ideally the robots are also looking for her. Maybe they don't know where she is. Like something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it's just, yeah. So, and I think that's what makes it aimless is that like John David Washington is just with a lot of success and very few obstacles, just like getting closer to her. And it's also like Alfie knows where she is. The whole movie,
seemingly, yeah.
So, like, and because that's how he eventually finds her, right? Is because Alfie knows.
No, it's because they're taking Alfie.
Oh no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm wrong. Okay, well that's different then. But still,
that's the other thing is like again, couldn't follow along what was going on. That's the thing is like every time we talk about something, it's like I could talk about 3 million different things. There's so many different directions I could talk. Let's talk about Gemma Chan though. So lots of problems here. First of all, dead wife syndrome. That's what they've decided to do. This
dead
movie,
wife dancing on the beach with a freehand camera.
Oh my god. Yeah. It's like the very classic, like, they were in love, not a real person. She's a person, but like doesn't seem like it. If you wanted to do this good, like, there's a way. It's called intercut flashbacks of like actually spending time together and actually having her be like real, and they actually kind of try to do that.
They try, but it doesn't work. None of what she says means anything in any of the flashbacks. No. It doesn't matter. It's also, I remember, like, I was literally thinking, I was like, okay, well, I don't even mind a cliche as long as like the movie is just built well. Like,
exactly. If it's done well.
One of my favorite action movies of all time opens with a, well, not dead, but like estranged wife beach scene. Like, that's how that movie opens. Yeah. And I love that movie. I don't care that scene is in it because I love that whole movie. Like,
but what works about it, she's not dead.
She's not dead. And it comes back and it matters,
And it comes back and it matters. That's the problem with this movie, is Gemma Chan is dead. And they do kind of bring her back at the end, but like so brief. And also like it doesn't matter. Like nothing that bit happens doesn't matter. So you have dead wife. He thinks she's alive. she's actually dead. Sure, you can have like it's a grief thing. You got to get over. You're seeing her. It's trick of the mind. I don't know. Like, there's a thing you could do with that, but it just feels so cheap to be like. And she's also like, she's not dead. It's the specific thing. It's like, she's not dead. She was in a 5-year coma, still alive. We can't kill her, but you can.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's
I would have liked to seen her real.
But also, if she was just straight up dead, I respect that more. If he gets there and she's dead and he has to deal with that and he has to like, you can also get into this idea of the human that's interesting, where it's like, if memory and consciousness is really important, then how is that transmitted to a child? So how does this child, like, how does his love for Gemma Chan relate to his potential love for this child? That's an interesting idea. Another interesting idea you could do, he puts her in another body and it's not the same. Like, that's kind of an obvious one too.
He doesn't have to do that if he finds her and she's a robot. Is that my wife? Yeah. That's like a real thing. And what if robot wife is still the creator and is still creating things? What's the difference? Now, machines are self-sufficient because she has become one of them. She has crossed over. These are all like real ideas. What if she was a robot the whole time? That might be a little far out there. But like, I think it's what feels so cheap. I thought it was going to
be that for a little while.
I would have been neat. What feels so cheap about the dead wife thing is just like, it's kind of like the fridging thing of like, it's just fuel to propel the character forward. Like, it's their motivation. And then it's like, they can't decide which is the motivation. Is it like, I'm sad about my dead wife, but then I could get my dead... Oh, I guess no, okay. I'm thinking about Dungeons & Dragons, and they do the same thing. It's always... The trope is always, my wife is dead, but what if she wasn't? And there's like the possibility that might not be the case. And I think what is so much more interesting as an option is actually interacting with that person as a character and treating them like a character instead of not doing that. Yeah. And there's ways where they could still be dead, and that was you're still having a conversation, still interacting with them. And
or what if she's without a body, and like what if it was like a hive mind thing where her consciousness had been implemented into all of the robots,
into
or
Alpha,
something like that,
Alpha,
and so he has to love these people because they are in essence like part his wife. Like, I don't know, whatever. But also, I saw a tweet that reminded me of a hilarious moment in this movie where he is watching a video of her and he's like, huh, I remember that, out loud.
He does that? Oh, good. Yeah, it's disappointing. Also, with Gemma Chan, it's kind of like, oh, she's going to be in this movie. Because you don't, if you're, people who know, it's like, if you cast a name actor, you're not going to just kill them off in the first, like, the difference again, Dungeons and Dragons. Who the hell is Chris Pann's wife in that movie? I don't know. She's dead. She stays dead. Gemma Chan was like, oh, she'll come back or something. Like, she's not just in that part of the movie. Pretty much is. And I also think, like, they had, like, an argument that I think needed to be fleshed out later, is the other thing, is, like, there was the issue, she leaves him, and I think what's feels like I'm left hanging here is that there's some unresolved thing where he needs to learn something that he hasn't, and they don't close the loop on that. Mm-hmm. She's left him, and it's more like, instead of like a getting over tragedy thing, it should be more like a divorce thing. Like, it's it's, I left you because you lied to me, and you are a racist, probably a robot racist,
Well, and I think genuinely, like, do you guys think like Joshua came to an epiphany at the end? It's like, oh, AIs are good. Like, I don't think so. Like,
there's a moment where it's supposed to be that, but
like, he got shown a lot of like brutal things that humans have done to AIs. Like,
but like, he was to me, always like, aware of those.
Yeah, because like, he's been telling himself that they're just programming, they turn off, they don't die, they turn off. Like, I feel like that's like another thing where like it's similar to his relationship with Alfie, which is like, it feels like the film is telling us like, hey, he's changed, wink wink.
Exactly.
But like I'm just like, did you change?
It's also like, is the idea so okay? So by spending time with Alfie, he's like, wow, these guys are people. But it's like, he has spent tons of time canonically with with what are they, synthetics? No, not replicants.
Simulants.
Simulants.
Yeah.
Simulants. He spent tons of time with them. He spent enough time with them to, even if he was a spy and he was on a mission, to be like, they kind of are like people. Like, he spent enough time that, like, he should have, like, what's happening presently is not different enough from what happened in the past. He inserted himself in this group of people, fell in love with one of them, who is a human, but is part of that group, no less. And he, like, you're telling me this child is, like, changing his whole perspective when none of that did anything to change his perspective?
Let's talk about Josh. He is not actually really a robot racist. Not really. He is just like guy who doesn't want to deal with this kid, I think. Yeah. Like, that's what it feels more like. And he's maybe like not politically correct. Like, that's kind of the difference, is like not racist, but just not politically, not up on things. Feels more like grandpa trying to talk about certain things than like, I don't think you're real. Like, it never feels like that. When they're first like coming back to New Asia, he's like, I don't want to kill these people. I don't, and that's more for the people, but
they have the save the dog moment.
Oh my god!
Where he saves the dog.
Just like such winking cruelty that feels more cruel than passive cruelty. Yeah. Because like it's like, hey, I'm gonna cut this real human's face off, and we only need the face. It's like, it just really radiates bad vibes.
Oh, that was so dumb. Also, just mechanically stupid.
Yeah.
Pick the body up. That would take more time to cut his face off.
Right.
Not only that, but like treating the dead life form like a tool says it. That's still the message. You don't have to be like, and now I'm gonna do creepy surgery. Woo.
Yes.
It's just like really forcing it. But back to Josh, just not a character. Like, I don't know what his thing is. He doesn't have a spine as it's a character terminology thing. I don't mean like he's spineless. I don't mean that. Yeah. I guess his spine is like, gotta go find my wife. I love my wife. He's a wife guy.
I love my wife. He listens to Chance the Rapper all the time. And that's a reference.
He's Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, he just like doesn't. Same as the AIs. No characters in this movie have interiority. They don't have like moments where they're like reflecting on things. Yeah. And it makes it really hard to have a non-character bond with a non-character. I almost think that Alfie has more personality than Josh. Like,
yeah, but can we talk about Alfie too for a second? In that Alfie is whatever the plot needs her to be, and feels
True.
It makes no sense. So okay, Alfie is supposedly naive enough that she can be somewhat convinced early on that when you power off a robot, you're just turning them off. It's not killing, we're just turning them off. And Alfie's like, okay, just turning them off. Alfie accepts that. But also, without like an arc happening, like being the same character, she's like, I want robots to be free. How are you familiar with the oppression of robots and you think that matters, but you also don't think it matters when you kill them?
And also, like, about the whole, like, robots revolution, the humans don't really have robots because they don't like them. We know this. The robots, AI, they're outlawed. So how is it, like, it's really hard to be like, they're an oppressed class when really they're just a foreign nation 90% of the time.
Yeah.
There's two robots that I can think of that the humans do use, and they're the suicide football player bomber that looks like a soda can, and the ticket taker at the airport. Like, those are the two types of robots that humans use. If it was like a Star Wars universe where robots were actually a subservient class, that's like a thing to be like, robot revolution. It's weird that they can't decide if it's
like in Solo.
Like in Solo, sure.
Like that one character in
yes.
Solo.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever. It's like, is this a Vietnam movie where it's like we're invading a foreign nation and we're being mean to them because they don't look like us, right? Or is it the enslaved underclass?
Yeah.
it's neither. It's trying to be both, and it can't decide.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
There's
I have a few miscellaneous things that I can just rail off that don't make any fucking sense.
Go for it.
So right off the bat, we mentioned kamikaze robot at the end. I thought the U.S.'s entire motivation, they explicitly state this, is that they will not be using AI at all. And I think that they make a point to that because, like, for most of the movie, we see them using things that are to be operated by humans that don't seem to have AI. And then they just have robots, like, at the end here. And it's like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. If that, because we have no reason to believe their motivation is anything other than that. Than just, like, that is true within the movie, that the reason they are doing this is just because they hate AI. It's that simple. And so, like, that can't be the case.
It also seems like the prime opportunity to pull a Dune and be like, now America just doesn't use technology.
Yeah.
And again, that would be a really easy way to be like, that's why it's hard for them to win.
Yes.
Because they can't use, like, they're using dated technology.
Then you get to compare humans and robots in a more interesting way as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that doesn't make any fucking sense. There's multiple times where Allison Janney's character is descending upon a group of robots and says, okay, hack everything. What?
Yeah,
like,
that didn't make any sense to me either.
On one level, it's like, that's stupid. Like, that's just like a movie thing where it's like, we're going to hack into their mainframe. It's just dumb. Also, if you think about it at all, so they can blow up their villages, they can hack them. We don't know what this means because we never see what that actually does, but they can be hacked. How are they a threat? How is the U.S. not one? Also, I'm saying the same thing. Like, and also, like, how does that change who they are as life forms? If we can what's the word? If we can from an external source, like, get into their heads, like, how does that change who they are? Like, it's. Sorry, Peter, what were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, like, if, like, in isolation, that scene where they send the kamikaze bots to the AI, it's actually a very powerful scene. You know, it's like AI killing AI, sort of like robots being used to kill another robot. Like, it's like you feel real sense of dread and desperation. But then,
there's a line
like,
with the suicide bomber robot says, like, pleasure to serve you, ma'am, and then goes off and does it.
That was so funny when they're like talking to each other. They're like you're gonna go, and they look at each other like, ah, shit, guess I gotta die now. Like, what? They first of all, they use robots. That's the first time we've seen them use robots, and I was like, you use robots?
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna do that, that's a can of worms we gotta, like, deal with now. Yeah. And an interesting one at that too. Like, the idea that outwardly, it's again this idea of, like, what the U.S. is telling you versus what is actually happening.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Like,
if your thing is, let me finish. If your thing is 9/11 movie, that feeds into that. Is like, we are lying to you constantly, and it's propaganda all over the place. We say we don't use robots, but when it comes to, like, the real truth, we do. And there's an underclass that are used to do the dangerous things. Robots need to rise up. There's, like, so many things going on in this movie. Sorry, Peter, what were you going to say?
I agree, yeah. Like, and I think it's exactly what Aiden said. Like, if they expanded on that, then there will actually be, like, a meaningful, like, and that's, Alex, that's how I interpret it as well. It's like, you know, to the public, we are holding a firm stand against AI to justify our invasion and bombing of New Asia. But then, like, you know, inside in the military, we still very much use robots and AIs, but to a different degree. Yeah. But the fact they never explored that just make the whole, like,
it's also that, like, but then why are they there?
Exactly. Like, it made the scene interesting at the moment, but it's not interesting in the context of the whole movie. You know what I mean?
What if Nomad had been AI?
It's an interesting
idea. That's the thing. We can't beat them.
They go up expecting a command center and people to be manning it, and they go up to find that it's
that'll be cool.
Is that really not
cool?
That's
a
way
sick
better
twist for a movie that loves twists? We didn't even get to this. The number of twists of this movie that are also not that twisty, hilarious. Gemma Chan is maybe not dead, actually in a coma.
Gemma Chan's the Namarda.
She's the creator.
Yeah.
Alfie is actually pretty much his kid.
That was the one that was like, oh, that's 100% his
it's
kid.
like,
I guessed that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And none of them are like at all interesting. Like these aren't actually interesting ideas. Well,
okay.
I suppose they could be, but
can I? Since we shot on this movie so much, I have some praises for this movie.
Okay,
I like.
shit on, but sure.
So, I love the ship designs in this movie. Nomad as a ship, fucking cool.
I like the Nomad. Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. Nomad is cool.
It is so cool, and also the way that it scans like the targets, like it gives you a real sense of dread. You know, when it's doing the scanning thing and then zooming in, like it feels, because first of all, it's coming from the sky. Second of all, it's a gigantic like laser light beams. Like it feels sort of like an inevitability when the Nomads are launching these strikes. So I really like that. And then the other scene that stood out to me was at the very end when Josh and Maya, they meet again in the space station. Like that's a beautiful fucking scene, man. Like I don't know how it's working because technically the glass probably shattered and they're probably like losing air very rapidly. The fact Josh is still breathing is a fucking miracle. But like the backdrop of like a space station collapsing, and then the earth in the background with like crops which are green and the two people on the both ends, running towards each other. That was a beautiful fucking scene. I have to say, I really like that scene. Like visually, beautiful.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
I will say Hans Zimmer's score.
Yeah. Actually,
Hans Zimmer scored this film?
Yes.
And it came
no
in.
way.
There's a moment right near the end where the score came in and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I think it's like, it's when he's saying goodbye to the kid where I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of feeling something for the first time in this movie because this score is very good.
It's there onwards that I'm like, oh, suddenly like someone turned on the music. I'm feeling things now. It's like, it's working now. Oh, we fixed it.
Yeah.
But like, also the score is really interesting. When Gemma Chan is there, it's fluty. It's like Titanic. I was like, weird. And then the crash lands and now it's Star Wars. Very interesting. Hans Zimmer's great.
But again, though, that's sort of like a case where the score is manipulating your emotion instead of like, like it's not.
I don't want to call it manipulative though, because it's doing its job, but the other things are not doing their job.
Okay, I have a quick side tangent about scores. So I watched this film about, I watched this short video on YouTube about like scores in trailers and movies and how they manipulate your emotions. But basically, it's like they use similar tones and like similar instruments in similar notes for scenes that convey similar or the same emotion across a lot of movies. So that when you're watching a movie in like a sad scene, for example, and the score started playing, your brain is actually thinking back to like another movie that you saw in the past that has like a sad scene, and that emotion feeds into your current emotion as well. So even though like I agree, score is fucking great and it's a very, very key component, sometimes your emotion might be tampered or manipulated by the score. So that's like, you're right, but also not a bad thing, and also that is just how this works. That is how
filmmaking works in general.
Film is a manipulative. All art is a manipulative genre. If you're just trying to, if your definition is trying to make people feel something, that's what art is.
It is true, but also like sometimes it feels not very earned. Especially like the example the example I saw in the video is about like the Star Wars trailers, and like, even though like the sequel trilogy aren't great, but whenever you're watching the trailers, you have this sense of, oh my god, this is epic, this is sick. But like it's because the score used are like perpetuating the themes that have been used in good Star Wars movies. They make you think about the good ones to manipulate you thinking that this one will be good too. But
that's all. It's also this is the same reason why The Force Awakens is A New Hope. Like it's the same. Yeah. It's the same sort of idea to remind you of it. But I think that like the problem here is that if you take that exact same score and you take a scene that's actually set up properly and characters who have been
absolutely
and given interiors, then that's fine, because you can't. I think the problem is the function of score is to embellish and accentuate. It cannot carry the load of all of the emotional meaning.
Absolutely, yes.
Like without the score, there's no emotion in this scene, and so what score should do is provide another wrinkle. It should give you more information and let you experience something that's already good with a different lens in a different way, but without the score there's nothing. And that's the problem. So it's not accentuating, it's doing all of the lifting, and I don't think that's what it should be doing.
No, definitely. Score is like the cherry on top, basically. Yeah. It elevates a scene that's already good.
Yeah, and I'll just say also, like, your description of score of, like, how we have associative meaning with what a sad scene score sounds like, true of basically every aspect of
I know.
That's true about like, shot choice, that's true about...
Shot choice, like, emotion, close up.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not so much about, like, it reminds you of every other movie. Like, yes, but that's kind of like a not the right way of thinking of it. It's like, that's the language we've created. Certain not even techniques, like in music it would be notes. Certain notes have certain associated meanings because how they've been used over time. Same with language. It's all of this is associated meanings behind symbols that inherently mean nothing. That's life as a whole. So now we're getting deeper than the creator ever did. To cycle back to the creator, I'll say some other things. Pacing, and I think this can mostly get everything I want to get. Pacing, like, terrible. It is jumping from moment to moment. So, like, I was so confused for parts of it where, like, for example, I had an example written down. Suddenly they're in front of the vault where the weapon is, and I went, how did we get here? Yeah. And there's the characters, like, trying to crack it open is like, I have to go. If it opens, don't go inside. Like a second later, it opens. Yeah. There's just no intrigue and tension. The in-between moments are gone. Literally just, it's a beat sheet of what needs to happen. And I think another thing that's related and also very bad is the first act. It is, I think, 3 layers deep of just expositional backstory. Yes. We start off with
repeating information constantly.
Oh my god, like over and over again. I get it. I know what the situation is.
His wife is fucking dead. I do understand that. Yeah.
Like, let me just remind, I think it's, first it was a video of, like, this was life with robots. Robots are invented now.
Yeah.
A second video, there was something that was so. Oh yes, it was the conference.
The ad, and then it was the nuke, and then conference.
The conference meeting thing about what we're gonna do. And then we are in the Gemma Chan backstory. Like, I honestly think that maybe start with the Gemma Chan backstory thing, but, like, there's no status quo moment. Like, they try. It's in there, but it's so small that I was like, I don't know what his daily life is like. And that does a lot of the heavy lifting for creating a character. They just skip over the create a character part. So we see him.
Yeah, there's the one scene where he works. Yeah, and that's.
And like, I don't know what his job is. He's working with a character who was in and then gone forever, and she's surprised when she sees a robot. Like, I'm like, this is normal from your day-to-day job. Like, I don't know. Where do you sleep? You're in a hotel. Like, there's a pool there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's just so many things. I'm like, I don't know what is normal and what is not. Yeah. Which means everything is just kind of weird to me and not different.
Yeah, it's also that the scene where he's working, like, the point of putting that scene there is so that we can establish the theme right there. Like, that's the scene where you do it. Yeah. Like, because the character, the person he's working with, like, pulls robot out. Robot's like, please don't kill me. And then John David Washington kills anyway and says, like, they're just programming. Then proceeds to repeat that line and say that exact same thing without any difference and without any hint that he doesn't believe it the same way, like, multiple times throughout the movie. And so, like, if you're going to have that scene there, one, I want to, like, see a little bit more about this world and how is LA reacted to a nuke being dropped on it, like, a little bit more. And also, like, just give me a different wrinkle, like, yeah, just give me a different wrinkle, different from what's going to happen later. And that's my bigger problem with that.
Yeah, and I think also it's interesting to think about one of the movies this movie does allusions to is Avatar. That movie is interesting because its status quo is not really status quo. It's weird. It starts off and our main character is already on a spaceship to Pandora because what status quo means in this world is sort of different. It's not what his regular life was before. We'd never see what life is like on Earth. But status quo is relative. It's relative to living with the indigenous people of Pandora, with the Na'vi. Status quo is what is life like on the base. What we are establishing what his new status quo is, and so that could be the case in this movie.
Yeah.
But they do both. They're quite indecisive in this movie, where we are seeing the status quo in LA, and if you've established that as status quo, then you have to do it as status quo. You can't just breeze past and like make us forget what happened. If it's status quo starts later than that, cool, works for me. But like, pick one, you know.
Yeah. I can get into, while we're in the first act there, I was talking to Alex before this, where I very quickly in this movie was like, oh no, this is not going to be good.
We didn't get it,
and so this was immediately like the opening ad like thing. I was like, I don't know about this. Like the montage thing, whatever, I could get past that. When we get into the scene, the first thing that we see that is not like a montage, that isn't like clips and stuff, the first thing that's like a proper scene is we see these American soldiers rising out of the water, clearly for the sake of stealth, like with lights, and so that we can't see them, and they're coming onto a beach, and then we also see the huge lights of Nomad flying above, and its laser beams spreading everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that is very emblematic of how ill-conceived this movie is. Where it's like, what are they doing? What is their goal? What is the point? Why are they sneakily coming out of the water if they're going to bomb this village in 5 minutes? And then we get later into that scene, and John David Washington, who has presumably been undercover for years, probably, right? Because he's gotten married, and he's having a kid with this woman. His wife goes upstairs just briefly while he's like talking to an American soldier who's in, and he's like, dude, what the hell? I'm a spy. Dude, literally I'm a spy. Man, I've literally been a spy. Don't bomb the village because I'm a spy and I'm American and I'm a spy. And then Gemma Chan comes downstairs and he's like, you're a spy?
They even have like a sort of open layout, like an open floor plan where like they're not closing doors or anything. She could hear you.
Yeah.
You were whispering. I don't So
And
he's like, he's like, shh, guy, don't tell her I'm a spy. Don't tell her I'm a spy. Oh my God, she heard me.
That could also be like just a good way to inject actual tension into a scene, is that like he has to be super quiet, and he has to like, he's like looking and he's like, fuck. Like, okay, like, cause this should be a huge problem, is that this is jeopardizing his mission, right? And so like he needs to get them to call it off, but he needs to do it clandestinely. Just, that is a good setup for a scene, but just do it better.
I also don't know why they stormed the house.
No.
Do you know, like...
I guess to find the creator, that's what it was.
They think they're gonna find, but like, that's what he's doing there.
Right.
And even he is like, why are you here?
Yeah.
And they don't really have a good answer to bomb your home, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or something else I was thinking about. Like, other options are like, I don't know, if he gets a secret communication, this would require more time and a better movie, but like, if he received a secret transmission that they're going to attack, that creates dread, there's like, you can kind of like have the scene with his wife and it can be nice.
Yeah.
Other things are like actually trying to hide the information, like just better than not like, trying very hard.
If we first see them in bed, they look in love and stuff. Next thing we see is he gets a transmission and he's looking at it. Then the next thing we see is he hides it from her. That is a story. Like, in and of itself, that's a 3-part thing that happened that's important, and it shows change, and we can leap off from there and go into something else.
And, like, maybe goes outside and tries to, like, I'm going to defend our home, and then it's like, guys, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
And then because he's outside the home, and she is not outside and she's inside, he thinks she can't, you know, just, like, every single piece of this movie does not make sense.
Yes.
As a whole, as a part, it's ill-conceived. I think we've mostly covered what
I have
wanted
one
to say.
more thing I want to say.
The speech?
Which speech?
The Neanderthal?
That's the last thing. That is the last thing I want to talk about. Yeah,
okay.
So this is just a dumb moment. This ties into the evolution theme thing. There's a scene where Allison Janney's character talks about how, like, did you know that the Neanderthal used to, like, rule I don't know what if she says rule the world, that's incorrect. They were not all over the world. But also, basically she says like, and do you know what humans did? The Homo sapien was better and stronger, and it came and raped and pillaged and killed all of them. I for those who don't know, I was a bioanthropology student in college, and so I was muttering under my breath like, "That's not true. That's not true. That's actually wrong." That's in the theater. For those who,
you don't have to be a bio. Like I knew that. I didn't think about that while watching the movie, but like,
well, I will say
some people do know this.
But I will also say, I think that what most people think is that most people's conception of evolution is that like brutal thing that like we literally came and just killed them all. Yeah. Not true. Like for those who are curious, we actually lived in very close proximity for them for like a good 60,000 years, as some evidence suggests. We also like had sex with them all the time, and there's no reason to think that's rape. It's much more likely that we just saw them as humans. And they just and so you can get maybe that's the point of the scene, maybe like because it's the general character who's saying that, and maybe it's supposed to reflect like the American attitude towards this thing, and the idea is that she's actually wrong. But it's another example of you need to explore that idea, and you need to explain that, because that's not common knowledge that's not what happened. And it got me thinking, like, I don't know if the filmmaker thinks that that's what happened either. It sounds like such a nitpick, but it's like, if you're going to bring in this idea of evolution that's very important, you have to like have done some research on it.
Do your research.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Also, last thing I'll say, that monologue is poorly acted by Allison Janney. Yeah. I don't think she's a bad actor, so I'm going to go ahead and say that the direction is probably at fault here. I'd say generally the acting is not stellar. Although I like the kid. I thought the kid was quite good. For a movie where the adults are not doing great, crazy that the kid is doing such a good job. Peter, do you have anything to say about this movie?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, Aiden, I believe we have a segment.
Yeah, so in case you haven't noticed, the podcast is called Predator versus Movies. We've done the movie part, now it's time to get into the Predator. We asked the question, would this movie be better if the Predator for the movie Predator was in it? Sure.
Yeah.
As the rule goes,
anything.
Yeah, why not? Give me something. Give me something that feels like a threat and provides urgency. Next question.
He's going to go kill the creator.
Yeah.
He's been contracted by the U.S.
Yes.
Yeah. Who wins?
Yeah, next thing we ask is who would win? And so would robots win? Like who are
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Would robots win? No, they're just humans. They are not different.
So bad.
They're actually less competent than humans in most regards in this movie.
You can turn them off.
You can turn them off.
You can literally just go flick and they're off. So I'd say no.
So no, they would lose. Humans would also. Well, humans might actually win because they have like the most powerful weapon imaginable.
You know what I was thinking while watching this movie? I don't think this is from a movie, but just like the idea of a satirical scene of like a government contractor being like, "Look at this beauty I made. I call her the Overkill," and just being like completely straight about it and like pointing like the Nomad is a great example, or the enormous tank. We call this baby the Overkill. Isn't she awesome? Anyways, Peter, we have a segment.
We do. It's called Predator's Picks. What did you guys watch this past week?
I'm going to turn the question around and ask you, what did you watch? Because you had a hard out. Supposedly.
Absolutely nothing.
Bye, Peter. You can stay as long as you want. Aiden, what did you see this week?
I've watched quite a few things. So I've been on a big horror binge recently. And so part of that for this past week was I watched a bunch of short horror films that were on the Criterion channel. I watched a recent one that was called The Fall. I'm blanking on the director, but it's on the Criterion channel. It came out somewhat recently. Really cool, really simple idea. I think a good example of a short film that is not trying to do more than it is and just relying on visual metaphor. It's interesting. It's like these characters who are all wearing these masks and you never see any of their faces. So you just see like these expressions grained into them, and it's this like kind of fascist sort of group that hangs one of the character. First he's in a tree, they shake him down, they hang him, he goes down this really far down this hole. It's a simple, well done idea. I also saw Guillermo del Toro's Geometria. This was very fun, very campy kind of horror movie, very short, clearly very low budget. I thought it was very fun. It's silly in the end. The character is undone. Starts where he's like, I failed my geometry test, and then he is ultimately killed by the demon because he failed to draw a pentagon, like to keep the demon out. So
that's so funny.
It's funny.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's a funny ending. Also watched a very disturbing one, The Alphabet by David Lynch. This is like a dream sequence one where this woman is being tormented by the alphabet, who are being manifested in different ways. Each letter is like represented by something. It's like actually pretty freaky. It's really cool sound design, really good imagery. I would definitely recommend that one.
Quick question. Have you seen like one of those, oh man, I wish I knew what it was called. Leapfrog. You know the Leapfrog Alphabet Factory? I think that's actually what it's called. No? Oh my God. That's like a kid's thing. It's like to teach you the alphabet, and it's like a factory where they make the letters. This is my plug, by the way. This is so I love this movie. So there's a couple of kid frogs, and they go to the alphabet factory, and there's this meerkat lab scientist character. I want to know what his name is, but anyway, so they go through each room, and all the letters have become personified. Like C is cold.
Yeah. Wow, that's kind of the same vibe.
Cold, and then they keep like there's other factories later. I will find out what the character's name is, and I will get back to you.
Cool. I also watched a couple. What's his name? David Cronenberg films. So I watched The Brood and Scanners. I think that Scanners is better than The Brood, although I will say The Brood is that's a fun movie. There's some weird little fucks in that movie. There's some creepy little guys. Oh. You'll see him. That's cool. Some cool practical stuff towards the end. And then I watched Scanners as well, which I personally liked more. Which I thought was very close to being like, it's like a step away from being like a really great movie. I think in some ways, but I think it kind of falls short in others. But definitely interesting ideas, interesting setup. It's also just fun to watch movies that are like clearly set in Canada. Like it's just like. It kind of like takes you back too. Like there's a line in The Brood where a character's like, "Yeah, my father-in-law lives out in Halifax. Like he's working out in Halifax for the government." And I was like, "Oh, that's what? Funny. Halifax exists in the world?" But
it's a real place.
Yeah. And then there's another moment in Scanners where I think it's funny how they're talking about, there's this organization that is stretched across all of North America, and that's a funny thing because only a Canadian writer would specify North America, an American writer would just say America. And so that's an interesting thing.
This is true. Yeah.
Also saw the shorts. I'll leave that one for last actually because I see that you saw it too. Yeah. I went to a film festival. I saw a movie called Mami Wata. This was a Nigerian movie. Very cool. Very striking black and white film. But like a specific type of black and white. This might not sound like a glowing review, but it kind of reminded me of like the 300 Zack Snyder aesthetic. But I thought it was actually it wasn't quite that, but it was like you can kind of see, if you saw it, you'd see what I mean. But it was done like really well, and I thought it looked really good. And there's some really, really cool filmmaking on display here, so I would check that one out too. And then last thing I watched was Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I quite liked this short film. I gave it 4 stars, I think. This is a really cool. I love that Wes Anderson is playing with sets a lot, and I like that he's like really leaning into ideas of artifice and shit.
Yeah.
I thought this was really cool, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, so I saw, like you said, I saw that too. Aiden's a big artifice guy, so of course I liked how, similar to The Creator, we are like several layers deep that was several layers deep of exposition, but this is of narrators, I guess. Yeah. So it's like the writer, then Henry Sugar, then the person who's the doctor, then the person who's the can't see guy, whatever. Yeah. Anyways, that was cool. And just a fun, short little story. Set design, very, very cool. And I just love the little details of like, they're not like, it's all practical. And that's what even though it probably isn't all practical, the things like when he's meditating and he levitates over the air, we see him turn a box that now the face we are seeing looks like the background. So it looks like he's floating. And it really works too, where you like squint or you're not noticing.
He looks like the Indiana Jones thing. Yeah.
What Indiana Jones thing?
In Holy Grail in the Last Crusade, they do that effect where it's with the invisible bridge where he's looking at.
Yes. I have not seen the movie in so long. But apparently there's 3 other shorts. I knew
that
that,
are
and
out
then I
now.
forgot, and so I will probably see them.
And apparently there's an order you have to
order.
watch it.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's in release order, or if you like sort them on Letterboxd, it has in the right order. Anyways, cool. I cannot remember how it ends. I think he died or something, but spoilers. Whoops. But yeah, it was a fun little thing.
Yeah.
The character's name from Leapfrog is Professor Quigley. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay. Good to
For
know.
any Professor Quigley
Any
stands.
leapfrog heads out there? Yeah.
Yeah, I love those things, and there's a bunch. I rewatched Stop Making Sense. It had an IMAX re-release. Love that movie. Didn't care for the re-release. They remixed the sound, and there was one part where I really noticed it. I noticed that he said thanks a lot. Like he'd be like thanks after a song, and I was like, I don't remember him doing that. Haven't checked, so I can't say that's not in the original. But there's one part where there's like a piano synth solo, and I know it so well that when instead of hearing it, we hear like this really random and like not great sounding guitar part that's just like down 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 down. Like it's just like it's not an important part of the song at that point, and we're listening like it's so loud compared to the actually cool bit that I was like, what happened? What else did they change too? Yeah. So wasn't crazy about that, but I adore that movie. Probably one of the best, if not the best, concert film ever, and it is just gorgeous to look at. Have you seen this?
No, it's
Artifice,
like the Talking Heads.
Yes, Artifice City. The
Really?
whole thing,
Oh.
yes, the whole thing is like, the first half, I'd say, is them building up the set. So the very beginning, you see David Byrne, just an acoustic guitar and a boombox and a mic stand. That's all he has. And he walks out. There's no set. The curtain is up. You just see like ladders and stuff behind. It's an empty set. And then slowly, Tina comes out, and then I think it's maybe Chris. I wish I knew their names. Chris comes out, and they bring out, like, you see the technicians are totally visible, and they push out platforms, and then all the people slowly come out for until the whole band is out there. Curtain comes down, and then they get to do fun other things. They play with lighting. Every single song is lit differently and different angles. One, they have a technician holding a light and like projecting shadows onto the back, and he's just walking around doing that. Like,
that's fun.
So fucking cool. And it's directed by the guy who did Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme. Like, just like a real director. Very cool movie. One of my favorites. Next week. Jesus, this is long. Next week, I have no idea because I have not flipped my calendar over, so I don't actually know what comes out next week. But you will find out, listeners, when it's out. If you like us, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at PredatorVMovies. If you like me and my reviews, check me out on Letterboxd at _Alex_. I leave reviews.
You can also check me out on Letterboxd. My name is 810 Sunny. That's 810SONNY. My name is Wombo. I also leave reviews sometimes, though they are few and far between and often sparse.
Peter, do you have a plug?
About what?
About anything
Exactly.
you want, fella.
About
He has
anything?
nothing to plug.
Okay. Let me plug something. Shout out to Solid Fuel Productions. They're amazing production company that I started following on Instagram. Yeah, they're pretty great.
Cross promotion.
Yeah,
they're pretty great.
We should also promote the pod on the Solid Fuel Instagram.
I don't want to do anything like that. But you know what that means? Peter didn't plug anything.
I did. I plugged your company.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Leave a review.
Leave a review.
Stars, comments. You like it, and we'll respond in kind, maybe, or we'll just talk about it on air. Yeah. Until next week, I'm Alex.
I'm Peter.
I'm Aiden.
And this was Predator vs. Movies. See you next week.
Let's go.